This is called The Tragic Story of Benjamin, Part 1. I'm talking about the tribe of Benjamin, and we're going to be looking at the last couple chapters of the book of Judges. We need to understand that from Joshua, Judges, Ruth, and 1 Samuel, that's primarily the time of Israel, and we could even dare say even at the time of Moses, where of course there was no king, and Israel was ruled and led by judges. Joshua, as a judge, kind of oversaw the entire nation. Then there was a period of 300 to 500 years-ish, where different judges were raised up. You know about Gideon and Samson. The very last judge was Samuel, who was also a prophet. And during the book of Judges, not one of them was kind of ruler or leader over the entire nation. It was all regional, like Samson down in the south, Gideon up in the middle north country, so forth. Samuel being the last prophet, he judged the entire country, and each year he would travel a circuit around the country and lead the people. He was a very godly man. And so as we would read Joshua, Judges, Ruth, and 1 Samuel, it's like there's no commas. It's a period of history where you actually have overlapping stories. Like the book of Ruth likely happened sometime during the book of Judges. And the opening portion of the book of 1 Samuel, where it talks about Eli the priest and his evil sons, that was during the time of the Judges. It was just at the end. Okay? So, I want to tell the story of what actually took place. So it tells us in the book of Judges, around chapter 19, that a Levite, a priest, came from the hill country of Ephraim to Bethlehem. He had a concubine. Back in those days, she would have been considered his wife, and she had run away. She went home to Bethlehem. And he came down from the hill country of Ephraim to go get her. If you're looking at a map, Jerusalem is in the middle south, near the Jordan River. And then right above Jerusalem is a tiny strip of land. That was the tribe of Benjamin. And then up to the left, almost to the ocean, was a fairly large tribe called Ephraim. And there was hill country there. And you often hear about the hill country of Ephraim. So he traveled southeast to go to Bethlehem. And so he got to his father-in-law's place. His wife/concubine was okay to come home with him. They stayed many days, and finally, when they left, the day was a little bit spent. So they're heading northwest, I guess traveling by donkey or whatever. And the sun's going down. And they're trying to decide where they're going to stay. And it ends up that they stay in a place called Gibeah. Gibeah was in Benjamin. Okay? Gibeah was in Benjamin. So let me read 19 verse 14. So they passed along and went their way, and the sun set on them near Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin, so they turned in there. An old man, a resident of Gibeah, took them in and showed them what would be considered the rightful hospitality, gave their animals food, and they were eating together. And then it says in verse 22, while they were celebrating, behold, the men of the city of Gibeah, worthless fellows, surrounded the house, pounding on the door, and they spoke to the owner of the house. Listen to this. They spoke to the old man, saying, bring out the man who came into your house, that we may have relations with him. You got to understand what they're saying there. And the man says, no, no, my fellows, please do not act so wickedly. Do not commit this act of folly. Wow, wow, wow. Another translation says, don't do this vile thing. Sadly, tragically, what happened? The man's concubine was sent out, and they raped her all night, and she died. She was found on the doorstep the next morning. Things that are just unthinkable, just horrid. So he loaded up his dead wife at Gibeah, finished the trip home to the hill country of Ephraim. Maybe it was a day. And it says in Judges 19, verse 29, he entered his house, took a knife, and laid hold of his concubine, and cut her in 12 pieces, limb by limb, and sent her throughout the territory of Israel with a message. In other words, a response, please, to what took place to my concubine, my wife, in Israel, specifically in Benjamin, in the city of Gibeah. And so verse 30, it says, all who saw it said, nothing like this has ever happened or been seen from the day when the sons of Israel came up from the land of Egypt to this day. So this perversion that the men of Gibeah wanted to do to the Levite was unthinkable, unheard of. But yet here it was happening in Gibeah. What a tragedy. So chapter 20, verse 4, they're now asking the man, so you tell us. He says, well, I came with my concubine to spend the night at Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. But the men of Gibeah rose up against me and surrounded the house at night because of me. They intended to kill me. Instead, they ravaged my concubine, so she died. And so I cut her in 12 pieces and sent her out as a message to everyone in Israel. So the other 11 tribes, they prayed and they said, God, what do we do? He said, rise up and attack Benjamin, not just Gibeah, Benjamin. I want you to come against the whole tribe of Benjamin. So they did. And I read chapter 20, verse 47. But 600 men turned and fled towards the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, and they remained at the rock of Rimmon 4 months. Wait for part 2.